Welcome to the Directors Guild of Canada BC online learning system. The module you've just started will explain the value and use of the location breakdown, as well as how to create the document using an Excel template that can be downloaded at the link provided. It should take between 15 and 20 minutes for you to complete this module. This important document is created by the Location Department and helps to guide the search for locations as it progresses. Some location managers prefer to create this document themselves, while others will delegate this task to the Assistant Location Manager, Scout, or a Trainee Assistant Location Manager if they're ready and able to take it on. On some fast-paced television series, the LM may already have a preliminary one-liner in hand when the locations breakdown is being created. Even though this schedule will be extremely tentative as far as where the locations will play within it, it will provide accurate page counts that will match those in the First AD's breakdown. This can be incredibly helpful as it allows the LM to ensure that the page counts match with those the First AD has determined. Breaking down a script, while it may seem a fairly linear task, always involves a quantity of interpretation in how to allocate page counts. For example, if a scene begins in a hallway and then moves into a bedroom, that is technically two separate scenes. Often scripts contain this type of discrepancy, and the First AD will be the one to determine how to allocate the dialogue, thereby setting the page count for each room. Where page counts are concerned, ultimately the First AD's interpretation will always be the globally accepted version. If a location manager does their own location breakdown first, there will always be minor discrepancies between their counts and that on the First AD's schedule. This isn't a big deal if you're talking about whether a line is delivered in the hallway or the bedroom of a house. It could become a much bigger deal if you're dealing with a more complicated location such as an airport or a hospital, especially if you were to end up cheating the two rooms in two different locations. Suddenly a discrepancy in page counts could be much more problematic. The location breakdown serves a couple of different purposes from a production standpoint. First and foremost, it will guide the search for locations by providing a snapshot of all the sets that are required for a given episode of television or a film project. Secondly, it is a communications tool to keep all those involved in the search on the same page. It also provides a budgeting guide, as all the key information that will need to be considered for your budget is captured here in a single document. Let's begin by looking at the elements that a location breakdown is comprised of. In terms of the document headings, it's important to include the date that the document was created. This is key because you may, on some longer preps, for a full-length feature film for example, reissue this document more than once. This minor bit of information is actually incredibly important for all documentation that the Locations Department creates to ensure that the people using the paperwork will know that they are using the correct version. Script rewrites can come fast and furious on some shows and may contain significant changes such as locations that are written out or added, serious alterations to page counts resulting in more or less time being spent at a given location, or the addition or removal of elements of the location use, such as special effects or stunts, that will need to be discussed up front when scouting a location. I once worked on a feature film where the very last rewrite issued just days prior to the completion of filming suddenly included a scene of a street riot that had never before been discussed. And that was a comedy. In these courses, we refer to these as red flag elements, and we'll talk more about those in a moment. The document headings will also include title information. This will include the title of the production in the case of a feature film. On a television series, it will include the series title as well as the title and episode number for the episode in question. The final piece that will be included in the headings is the script date. This is the date of the script on which the breakdown is based. This is another key piece of information to be certain that people are referencing the most up-to-date information based on the most current script that's been issued. The remaining information is contained in the body of the document. Set names are the names of sets as shown in the script. Important to note that these are not the names of the locations, even if you already know where some of the scenes will be filmed. That said, some location managers will make an added note of that information if they have it. Recurring locations, for example, would likely be shown as such. This will ensure that any newcomers to the show are aware of which locations have been established and which are yet to be found. The next column is for scene numbers, and those will correspond to those shown in the script. Sometimes in very early prep, you'll be asked to create a location breakdown from an unnumbered script. In this situation, you have two options. You can either number the script yourself, or you can use the page numbers as your reference points. The second option is a pretty down and dirty approach, but if you're in a hurry, it works in a pinch. The disadvantage of numbering the script manually is that the first AD will do the same thing when they start, and once again you will have a breakdown on which the page counts are likely to vary broadly from the first ADs. If the first AD is already on the project, you could ask them to share their own numbering with you to keep things more consistent. The next two items on a location breakdown are the meat of the document. Script pages are broken down into eighths. The first step is to mark the script to identify page counts for each scene. That information is then transferred onto the breakdown document. Many location managers use an Excel template that will add the eighths manually for you. This template is available on the Learning Management System at the link provided at the beginning of this module and can be downloaded for your use. I'll show you how to mark a script in a moment. Page count details will be broken down into 4 categories: interior day, interior night, exterior day, and exterior night. From an overall production standpoint, breaking a script down in this way offers each department crucial information that will assist them in their work. From a lighting standpoint, for example, there's typically a big difference between lighting interior night and exterior night. For the location department, the value of breaking the pages down into these categories becomes most obvious when we consider filming in sensitive exterior night locations. Let's say you read a script that's set in a residential neighborhood. If your breakdown reveals that there are a high volume of exterior night scenes that take place in the neighborhood, that tells you several things. First, it will be important to prep the area carefully and thoroughly, ensuring that the residents are all informed and on board with the required nighttime activity. A poll will clearly be required, and this may steer you away from some highly sensitive places where you know a successful poll is unlikely to be achieved. If a sensitive location ends up becoming the favorite, and this happens often despite best efforts to avoid it, you will want to have a backup in your pocket, given the many issues that could push things off the rails along the way. It will also influence how you budget, knowing that you will need a team of savvy and capable PAs to bring the residents on side with the night filming. Another associated cost would be accommodation and per diems for some of the most immediate neighbors and those who have special concerns around night filming, people with young children, for instance. This is just a single example from among a huge range of issues of consideration. You can see how the simple act of identifying page counts within these 4 categories can have an immediate impact on any number of areas of concern, including logistics, cost, safety, and many more. The final element of the location breakdown, while falling under the simple heading of notes, is perhaps the most useful and telling of them all. The column titled Notes will contain a huge range of items. Think of this section as a set of reminders, both big and small. These red flag items could include anything that seems worthy of note from a location perspective. Some may be as simple as exposed weapons or gunfire, indicating the need for police to be on site as a precautionary measure. Others will indicate much more serious considerations that the whole locations team will need to be aware of from the inception of the search. It could be, for example, that you know your script requires that the entirety of one of the locations be repainted as part of the storyline. Or that you know you have a fire or an explosion that takes place there. Perhaps you're planning to make the home appear junky or abandoned. These are all filming elements that you would definitely want to discuss with potential locations before showing them to the creative team. If you needed a retail property that allowed you roof access to mount a giant sign on it, for example, that would definitely be question 1 for the scout to ask when they knock on the door. Is it possible to access your rooftop, and would you be open to our doing so? You might also use this column to draw attention to a large exterior night page count like the one that was mentioned a moment ago. Aside from things that you want to ensure the team are aware of, other notes might be aimed at your own recall, like hints about things you can't lose sight of as you know they'll require more work than usual or an added step. like booking the officers for those exposed weapons, or a scene that you've been told will be done as a visual effect versus practically. The notes column functions like a breadcrumb trail of noteworthy items collected while reading the script. Now let's look at how to mark up your script in preparation to create the breakdown itself. Consider each script page to be an 8-piece whole. An eighth is approximately 1 inch of the page. Scripts are always created using the Courier font, 12-point size, single-spaced. Courier is a monospaced font, meaning that each character and space is exactly the same width. This allows for fairly consistent interpretation of the probable length of a program based on how many pages the script is. The general rule is that 1 page of script is equal to 1 minute of screen time. That said, not all scenes are created equal. Some take an enormous amount longer to prep and film, and every location manager knows well the huge difference between a line that reads, "He leans in and kisses her," and one that says, "A riot ensues." Here we have the first few pages, also known as the teaser, of the Arctic Air pilot script to work with. This script is used with the permission of Omnifilm. First, let's mark the scene breaks using a highlighter to delineate them. Next, we'll mark the page counts of each scene. I use a line down the left side of each scene with an intersecting line at the bottom to indicate a scene's ending. At first, you may want to use a ruler. Our scene 1 here looks like 2 inches. So it's 2/8 of a page. Scene 2 is about 4 inches, or 4/8 of a page. Scene 3 is another 2 inches. And I put an arrow at the end there to indicate that the scene continues on to the following page. After time, you'll get the hang of eyeballing the measurements. I put another arrow at the top of the line on the following page so you can see at a glance that the scene started on that prior page. You can see here where the scene neither starts nor finishes on the page, I have an arrow at either end. I never record combinations of scene counts on my script, just the count for the scene or scene segment. This avoids my accidentally counting a scene twice. It also conveniently avoids the need for math. In a moment, you'll see how to transfer these totals onto the Excel spreadsheet. That document can't add whole numbers, so all inputting must be done in eighths. Don't forget to add any red flags in the margins for inclusion on your breakdown. Sometimes I also include other little notes to myself in this process that may not get transferred to the final breakdown document. This whole process is highly personal in nature, and you'll develop yours over time as you do the job. It really doesn't matter how you mark your script, and I'm sure many people do it differently than is shown here. As with so many things in film, there are many ways to accomplish this. What is important is that you ensure that your process captures all the relevant information to be transferred onto the location breakdown. Now let's look at how that part is done. This is the template location breakdown document that's provided on the Learning Management System. It's an Excel document, and it's set up to add the eighths of pages together for you, as long as you enter them correctly. First, let's enter our document heading information. This is an episode of Arctic Air that is numbered 101. The episode title is Out of a Clear Blue Sky. We've also recorded the date that we're creating the breakdown and the date of the script that it's based on. Now let's add the information for the first 4 scenes that make up the teaser. Here's how it looks. These are the fields that you'll be filling in. The addition will take care of itself. Also, if you're planning to use Excel for your breakdown and budgeting needs, it's a really good idea to take a tutorial on the program. There are lots of Excel training options available on the web. The only part of this document you fill in that isn't just typed as you see it are the fields that contain the page counts themselves. Let's look at how those work. You can see here where the information from the script shows up on the breakdown document. But you don't just type the information directly into the cells, as the total that's shown is an accumulation of all the scene segments that take place on that set. For this, you need to use an Excel formula that lets you add all the segments together behind the scenes. Here's the formula you use to do this. It's the equal symbol, followed by the word sum, then an open parentheses. Here's where you insert the page counts as eighths with an addition symbol between each one, and there could be many. Finish with a close parentheses, and you're done. Here's how it looks for scene 4. The scene is set curbside at the Yellowknife Airport. It's spread over pages 2 through 4. Page 2 has 1/8 of a page. Page 3 has 8/8 of a page. Page 4 has another 1/8 of a page. Together they add up to 10/8 or 1 2/8 pages. Once you hit return, the cell will just display the total as it does here. Keep in mind that if the script returns to the same set name again, you'll need to continue adding to the formula until you've captured all the page counts for the scenes that take place there. As I mentioned prior, the Excel spreadsheet cannot add whole numbers. This means if you're working from an existing one-liner, you'll need to keep in mind that you'll have to convert those page totals into eighths to input them. Here's how that would look. Here are some random page counts to work with. First, you convert them from whole numbers to eighths, like this. And here's the formula you'd use to add them together. The final total would be 6 7/8 pages. Don't forget to add in any notes that you think merit inclusion in the location breakdown. It's also important to keep in mind that this document will be distributed to a large number of the prep crew. Also, as a production document, it will usually comprise part of the overall production files kept by the production office. Unless you're working with an incredibly simple and short script, to complete all the scenes, you will need to add more fields to the Excel template. The quick way to do this is to insert rows and then copy and paste the existing template cells into them. This will retain the formula that adds the columns. It's also a very good idea to double check that all your columns are adding up as they should before submitting this document. Once your document is done, you can distribute to the crew as required. Some productions do a blanket copying of this document to everyone. Other shows limit it to just the people who are directly involved in the search for locations. If you want to ensure that it doesn't go out widely, then take care of the distribution yourself versus asking the production office to do it. A few final reminders. You'll no doubt encounter various different forms of this document as you work with different teams. Some people may list the sets in order of the script. Others may choose to pull anchor or recurring locations to the top. I've also seen breakdowns where the first locations were those with the highest page counts or the locations that are seen as the hardest to find. Ideally, all locations should be included, as leaving some off could be very confusing. The chosen format and order of presentation isn't really that important. What's important is that all the information is captured and easy to read. I hope you've enjoyed this video module. If you have any thoughts or comments on this module, please feel free to share them with us by emailing training@dgcbc.com.